All right, so this is where we're looking at that second ingredient. We've got our honest expression and we have our empathic receiving. So this is looking at empathic receiving. So we can, again, we're going to kind of go back to that key differentiation number one. There was being versus doing giraffe. When we're being giraffe, we're in our hearts, we're in our body, we're really feeling into something. We're sensing into it. We're using our feeling body to imagine, wow, if I had gone through what you went through, if I could walk in your shoes, if I had lived that through you, what might I be feeling? What might I be needing? Intellectual guessing it's just more from the head. It's less embodied. So intellectual guessing might be, based on everything you told me, I would guess that you're feeling this and you're needing that. So it's much more from the head than it is from the body. Sometimes that can serve you. There are times when really having empathy for another person's experience is a stretch. For example, maybe you are seeking to have empathy for, how about me, right? I'm a mother, I'm a woman. How about if I'm having empathy for a situation that is unique to the experience of being a teenage boy? It could be harder for me to understand a teenage boy, to understand the social circles as they are now, to understand what's going on in school, to understand the hormones or the pressures or the whatever. So it's harder for me to reach to really be in that empathic sensing. I can tune into the person and seek to. It's harder for me to walk in their shoes because it's a very different experience, especially if that teenage boy is from another country, another culture, right? so those kinds of things can make it really hard to empathically sense. But we do the best we can to empathically sense with our body, like, wow, okay. If I were a male, if I were that different age, if I were in that culture, that situation, how might I feel? To really sense into that. Sometimes you got to do some research because, man, male and female hormones are a very different thing. They create a different experience of reality. You got to do some research to understand that. Different cultures are different. If you don't understand another culture, it's hard to have empathy for what it's like to be in that culture. So sometimes some research can help to fill in those gaps that make you more able to empathically sense. So sometimes intellectual guessing is supportive of our desire to reach to give empathy for another person's experience. I have a friend who has been financially very abundant from birth, right? Has a lot of family money, has always had a lot, and she sometimes shares with me her financial challenges. And it really took a long time for me to be able to come into a deeper sense of empathy because my financial challenges as a single mom seeking to raise my son with not enough child support was totally different than her experience of never having to work a day in her life and having multiple properties and multiple employees and, all kinds of people asking her for money all the time. So very different worlds, but her experience still, there's times she needs empathy. Just because she has a lot of money doesn't mean that she has any more financial ease than I do. That took a while for me to figure out. It doesn't actually mean that she has more financial ease. There are times when she really needs empathy for what she's going through. And so there were times I had to do intellectual guessing because it's like, wow, that's just really not my world, right? So we leaned on that when we can't really empathically sense into it. But the more you can learn about, wow, what is that world for you? The more you can actually sense into it as opposed to intellectually guessing. And the deeper you can sense into it, the deeper you can be embodied into it, the deeper the other person will feel heard, seen, understood, and cared for. The deeper that empathy will land for that other person.